She was blind. She lived in a small house in a forgotten village in Bulgaria. No fancy temples, no luxurious garments. And yet, people from all corners of the country, even from across the world, lined up for hours just to hear a single sentence from her. Her name was Baba Vanga. To some, she was a prophet. To others, a lunatic. But for those who had witnessed her abilities, she was something far beyond explanation. Because Baba Vanga could speak with the dead. She could touch a shirt and tell its owner's fate, smell a lock of hair and describe how someone died. Her predictions weren't vague riddles. They were sharp, specific, often horrifying. And worst of all, they came true. People who stepped into her house didn't just seek answers. Many came trembling because they feared she might tell them exactly when they would die. And sometimes, she did. This is not about the famous prophecies you've heard, about wars, politics, or disasters. This is about the quiet, personal, terrifying side of Baba Vanga. The stories that were never aired, but whispered from one terrified witness to another. Stories of people who went to see her and never returned. Of names she mentioned, who died days later. In this part, we begin where the veil between the living and the dead thinned the most, when Baba Vanga foretold death, and death came knocking. The strange death of a national leader. Todor Zhivkov, the longtime leader of Bulgaria, who had ruled the country for 3 decades, had a secret meeting with Baba Vanga in early 1991. No recordings, no press, no outsiders. Only one bodyguard was present. According to the account later shared by that very bodyguard, a former national security officer, Zhivkov entered Vanga's small wooden room with mild curiosity. But just 15 minutes later, he stepped out pale-faced, his hands visibly trembling. The bodyguard leaned in and whispered, "Sir, what happened?" Zhivkov replied with only one sentence, "That blind woman saw far too much." Months later, at a private gala among Bulgaria's elite, a few close friends asked him about the encounter. He smiled faintly, poured himself a drink, and quietly said, "I only have 2 winters left." At the time, it sounded like a metaphor, a poetic musing, maybe even a joke about old age. But no one laughed, because the look in his eyes was completely serious. Less than 2 years later, Todor Zhivkov died suddenly during an intimate gathering with friends. There were no major health issues, no warning signs. He simply slumped forward at the table, glass still in hand. His heart had stopped. The family declined an autopsy. Some in political circles whispered this was the death of destiny. But the story didn't end there. His own nephew, a young technology student, later recalled a detail that gave everyone chills. "The night he died, I dreamed he was standing outside my window. He wore an old coat. He said nothing, just smiled. The wind was bitterly cold. I still remember the sound of the leaves tapping the glass." Strangely, in the apartment where he lived, there was no window facing trees. The scene in the dream simply didn't exist in reality. From that moment on, Baba Vanga's name began to echo within Bulgaria's power circles like a haunted whisper. No one dared to mention her during official meetings, but almost everyone had gone to see her. And Todor Zhivkov, a man who once held absolute power, was the first to fall, exactly as she had foreseen. Was it coincidence? Or was it something far more terrifying? Proof that fate is not ours to decide? And if that's true, then who or what is writing the script of our lives? The Missing General and the Warning of Snow, March 1983. A black Volga car silently pulled up in front of a small wooden house in the remote Bulgarian village of Rupit. Inside the car sat a man in a high-ranking military uniform, General Anatoly Grekov, one of the top commanders of the Soviet Red Army. The visit happened in absolute secrecy. No journalists, no official records. But according to the memoirs of a security officer who accompanied him, after a 40-minute conversation with Baba Vanga, the general seemed to have aged 10 years in a single afternoon. "She didn't look at me, but I felt as if she was staring through my chest," he said. "It was like she saw what I'd been hiding in my mind for decades." No one knows exactly what Vanga told him, but what is known is this. Immediately after returning to Moscow, General Grekov submitted his resignation from the military. No explanation, no announcement. He sold his house, withdrew all his savings, and moved to live in isolation in a small wooden cabin at the edge of the taiga forest. One of his close friends later revealed that Grekov had become uncharacteristically withdrawn. He kept a detailed diary and repeatedly muttered one strange sentence: "I will disappear before the snow melts." That winter, snow fell heavily. By early spring, a late-season blizzard swept through Siberia. After the storm, General Grekov was never seen again. His cabin was left abandoned, the fireplace still smoldering with warm embers. Inside, his diary lay open to the final page, a hastily scribbled line. She said, "When the snow melts, I will melt with it." A secret search operation was launched. Planes, helicopters, sniffer dogs, yet no trace was found. No corpse, no footprints, no ID, no clues whatsoever. Authorities officially declared him missing under unusual circumstances and quietly closed the case. Years later, a rescue worker claimed he once found a blood-stained scrap of paper deep in the forest. On it, in Russian, were the words, "Don't listen to her, but don't ignore her either." No handwriting analysis could confirm who had written it, but someone within the Russian Ministry of Defense once whispered, "There are deaths that require no body to be proven." Because perhaps they didn't die, they were erased from reality. The plane crash and the spring sky prophecy. In April 1996, a group of scientists and nuclear energy experts from Eastern Europe were invited to Poland to attend a confidential conference on the development of clean technology to replace atomic energy. The night before departure, one of them, Dr. Ivan Drasko, a Bulgarian physicist, took his wife and child to meet Baba Vanga. His wife was a devoted believer in Vanga's visions and insisted on asking for a word to ensure a safe journey. Vanga sat silently for several minutes, then suddenly turned her face toward the window and uttered one chilling sentence: "The spring sky this year will not be calm. Steel will fall from above, and fire will burn down to the soul." Drasko laughed it off, brushing the words aside as the ramblings of a superstitious old woman. But his wife didn't. She begged him to cancel the flight. He refused, claiming that superstition should never stand in the way of scientific progress. The next morning, Flight OKF 743 took off. On board were 27 passengers, mostly scientists, engineers, and several government officials. The plane vanished from radar just 32 minutes after takeoff, at an altitude of over 6,000 meters. The Ministry of Defense issued a statement: "Engine failure," but many details didn't add up. The weather was clear, no emergency signal was sent, and the black box was completely destroyed. Only one person survived, a young research assistant named Milan, who was found over 4 kilometers from the crash site, severely bruised but conscious. In his official report, Milan wrote, "I saw the sky tear open. It wasn't lightning, it was like a rip in space. Then I felt myself being pulled out of the plane. I don't remember anything after that. When I woke up, everything around me was ash and debris, but I wasn't badly hurt. It was like something pushed me out to save me." The terrifying thing? Milan had never heard Baba Vanga's prophecy, yet the words he used, "the sky tore open," were exactly what Vanga had said. After the incident, Milan abandoned the field of science and moved to a remote village near the Carpathian Mountains. He never spoke to the media again. Only once did he leave a written note: "I don't know why I'm still alive, but I believe someone or something decided my fate before I even stepped on that plane." The crash was quickly buried by the media. The victims' families received compensation, but no one ever truly knew what happened. One thing, however, is undeniable. Vanga predicted it, and it came true, with terrifying accuracy. The girl who lost her mind in the warning, "The sun will kill her." Sofia, Bulgaria, August 1990. A middle-class family brought their only daughter, Irina, 17 years old, to see Baba Vanga. The reason: Irina was suffering from severe sleepwalking. She often woke up in the middle of the night speaking strange phrases in a language no one could understand. Doctors diagnosed her with a psychological disorder, but her mother believed something else, that her daughter was being controlled by something not of this world. When the family arrived, Baba Vanga did not greet them in her usual way. She simply turned her head toward Irina, frowned slightly and said, "The girl has seen what ordinary people are not meant to see. The sun will not spare her." The family was frozen in shock. They asked again, "The sun? Is that a metaphor for something?" Baba Vanga shook her head. "When the sun is high overhead, do not let her go outside. If you do, she will never return." They left Rupit in a state of panic. The father, a mechanical engineer, dismissed the prophecy as fear-mongering from an old woman. But the mother began to monitor Irina obsessively, especially at noon. That summer, Irina was kept indoors almost all day. But one sweltering afternoon in July, under a blazing, unforgiving sun, the back door of the house was accidentally left unlocked. Irina stepped out into the yard. 15 minutes later, neighbors screamed. She was found collapsed on the concrete, eyes rolled back, mouth twitching, her body showing signs of extreme heat stroke. But the strangest thing, when doctors measured her temperature, it read -3 degrees Celsius. They didn't believe the equipment. They checked 3 times. The result didn't change. Irina survived, but her mind did not. She never spoke again. She didn't recognize her parents. Every day at exactly 12 noon, she repeated a single sentence. "I saw the sun close like a door, and I was left on the other side." Her family took her all over Europe for treatment, but nothing helped. A neurologist in Berlin, after performing an MRI scan, whispered something chilling. "Her brain waves resemble someone who is dreaming, but never waking up." Irina somehow had become trapped in another reality, another dimension that only Baba Vanga had ever glimpsed. 1 year later, her father committed suicide in the garage. On the wall, he left a scrawled message. "We should never have let her walk into the sunlight. Never." The journalist erased from the world after his final encounter. Ivan Petrov, an investigative journalist famous on Bulgaria's national television, was once a skeptic. In 1995, when public debate about Baba Vanga's mystical powers grew heated, Ivan decided to produce a report to expose the phenomenon. He gathered testimonies and interviewed dozens of witnesses, most of whom insisted, "Vanga is nothing but a clever hoax." But then something strange happened. While editing his footage, the camera's hard drive suddenly exploded. Though the equipment was brand new, the only backup tape lost its audio for unknown reasons. Angry, Ivan decided to confront the matter directly. He traveled to Rupit carrying a voice recorder, a camera, and even hired a private translator to record every word Baba Vanga spoke. When he arrived, Vanga refused to see him. She stood at her doorstep, turned her back, and shouted, "You are not seeking the truth. You seek disappearance." Ivan laughed loudly. "Then you'll have to prove that in front of the camera." She was silent for a long moment, then said, "The day after tomorrow, you will no longer be yourself. Machines will not record what is coming." Ivan left in anger. But the next morning, he didn't come to work. No one could contact him. His apartment was locked from the inside, with no signs of struggle. Yet the voice recorder he took home contained a strange recording. The sound of Vanga reciting a meaningless string of numbers for 2 minutes straight, something no one remembered her ever saying. Worse still, all of Ivan's personal records, from his workplace, hospital, bank, had vanished from all systems. His ID card was invalid. His driver's license was erased from databases. Even his official email, used for decades, now returned an error. Address does not exist. The TV station where he worked for 14 years had no records of an employee named Ivan Petrov. A close colleague said in fear, "I used to have lunch with him every day. Now it's as if he never existed. As if someone erased him from the world, but forgot to erase the memories in my mind." No one ever saw Ivan again after that day. No body, no evidence. Only Vanga's prophecy and a terrifying void in his life records. The classified file and the strange encounter of the KGB. In 1967, a top-secret telegram was sent from Sofia to Moscow, bearing a shocking subject line. "Report on the Future Prediction Personnel Unit. Codename, Vanga. Sender, General Georgy Markov, Director of Bulgaria's National Security Agency. Recipient, KGB Intelligence Command Center. Elite unit researching supernatural phenomena." The 36-page report detailed numerous contact cases between Baba Vanga and Bulgarian government officials, documenting multiple instances where she accurately predicted political upheavals, financial crises, and notably in the exact time of death of several high-ranking leaders. But this was not the most shocking part. At the end of the report, General Markov wrote, "She does not need direct contact nor information. Simply touching an object or smelling the sweat residue left on someone's clothes. She knows everything, even the past that the person themselves cannot remember." The KGB immediately dispatched a special task force to repeat. In a declassified document from 1999, the testimony of an officer involved in the delegation was recorded. "We did not introduce ourselves or speak, yet she called each person by name, title, and hometown. She even stated the exact time my father died, a secret accident unknown to anyone else. At that moment, I realized I was not facing an ordinary person. From then on, Baba Vanga was listed as a highly protected individual under the code X73/Omni, a special designation reserved for unexplainable entities linked to superintelligence beyond human comprehension. From 1970 onward, Baba Vanga's freedom of contact was strictly controlled. The Bulgarian government quietly built a protected zone around her home, equipped with surveillance systems, access controls, and hidden electronic barriers. They did not imprison her, but neither did they allow full freedom. Rumors spread. On every full moon, a group of Russian agents would visit Vanga, bringing mysterious objects, perhaps relics of the deceased or devices from classified incidents. And then, like a dark ritual, she would return answers the world dared not ask. Baba Vanga was not a human. In April 1996, just months before Baba Vanga's death, a former staff member who worked inside her secret guarded compound suddenly appeared in Frankfurt, Germany, revealing shocking secrets. Alexander Denev, a technician who monitored electromagnetic frequencies and audio data at Baba Vanga's home for 7 years, left experts and the media stunned with his words. "I have to be honest," Alexander began in a secret interview with investigative journalists. "Baba Vanga was not a human, or at least she was no longer human as we understand it." Those words seemed to silence everyone present, while raising questions that remained unanswered. He recounted the unexplainable phenomena he personally witnessed during many years working closely with the blind witch. Every time Baba Vanga communicated with the dead, all recording devices would suddenly emit strange reverse waves, as if the sound source was not coming from outside, but from inside the machines themselves. "We checked and rechecked everything, but we couldn't explain why the equipment was generating sound like that," Alexander said. Her body temperature was the most bizarre thing. Throughout 7 years of constant surveillance, Baba Vanga's skin temperature remained steady at 27 degrees Celsius, an extremely low figure, nearly as cold as the harsh Bulgarian winter air. "None of us ever saw a human body maintain such a low temperature without harm," he affirmed. But that wasn't all. Alexander revealed the most terrifying detail. At least twice, security cameras recorded Baba Vanga suddenly disappearing from the frame for several seconds. "There was no editing, no technical malfunction," he said. "When she returned, her eyes appeared empty, as if she did not recognize anyone around. We panicked, but there was nothing we could do except continue monitoring." Another unforgettable detail was that Alexander once heard her speak in sounds that were not any human language. She spoke in something like radio waves mixed with machine noises, he recalled. The strange audio segment he extracted was sent to a NATO cryptography expert for analysis. The result sent chills down their spines. It was not a language of humankind. Shortly after revealing these secrets, Alexander's fate turned grim. He died in a car accident on the A3 highway while driving home. The official police conclusion in Germany was falling asleep at the wheel, but a leaked confidential document from the German Interior Ministry stated, "The brake system was tampered with mechanically, high probability of deliberate assassination." Alexander's sudden death only deepened the mystery surrounding Baba Vanga. When Baba Vanga died in August 1996, her funeral was held with extraordinary secrecy. No press, no cameras, no recordings were allowed. A priest who attended the funeral shared a chilling experience. "When they opened the coffin, I expected to see a peaceful face, but no, It was no longer a human face. Her eyes were wide open, despite her blindness. On her forehead was a strange mark, resembling an ancient symbol, flickering with a faint light. These images were a haunting reminder that Baba Vanga may not have been an ordinary prophet. The final question still haunts humanity. Who was Baba Vanga truly? Was she just a psychic with an extraordinary sixth sense? Or a messenger of mysterious cosmic forces sent to warn humankind? Or perhaps a biological device carrying messages from extraterrestrial beings? Hundreds of her prophecies still await fulfillment. But what has already happened is enough to send shivers across the world. Are we ready to face what Baba Vanga once tried to warn us about?